You make the last payment. The screen refreshes. Zero balance. No more interest, no more reminders, no more quiet guilt humming in the background. You feel lighter, cleaner, like you finally did the adult thing. And then, months later, maybe years later, you run the numbers, and the math doesn't celebrate with you. In 2019, a software engineer in Austin named Marcus decided he was done with debt. Student loans had followed him since his early 20s. Not crushing, not catastrophic, just always there. So he went to war with them. Every bonus, every tax refund, every extra dollar that didn't absolutely need to exist. He paid aggressively, relentlessly. By 2022, the balance hit zero. Marcus posted about it online. People congratulated him. Strangers told him he'd won. He felt free. And then he noticed something uncomfortable. If he'd done almost anything else with that money, he'd be richer. Not slightly richer, $73,000 richer. This isn't a story about irresponsibility. It's a story about obedience, about following advice that feels safe, virtuous, and responsible, and quietly paying for it later. Because paying off debt early isn't always smart. Sometimes it's just emotionally satisfying, and those two things are not the same. Right now, this matters. Household debt in the U.S. sits north of $17 trillion. Mortgages, student loans, auto loans, credit cards. The average adult carries close to 6 figures when you stack it all together. And the advice machine has one message on repeat: kill it, attack it, eliminate it at all costs. Dave Ramsey built a media empire on this idea. Debt snowballs, debt avalanches, sacrifice now, breathe later. Whether you pay off the smallest balance first or the highest interest first, the underlying belief is the same. Debt is the enemy. But that belief only works if you pretend all debt behaves the same. It doesn't. Let's go back to Marcus. His student loans were fixed at 3.4%. Federal loans, boring loans, the kind no one panics about until they look at the balance too long. His minimum payment was around $400 a month, completely manageable. But the number bothered him, so he escalated. $2,000 one month, $5,000 the next, whatever it took to make the balance shrink faster. 3 years later, he was done. Here's what happened in the background while Marcus was doing the right thing. In 2019 to 2022, the S&P 500 returned roughly 15% per year on average. Volatile, yes. Uneven, yes, but relentlessly upward over that stretch. If Marcus had invested the extra money instead of throwing it at his loans, about $60,000 would have grown to more than $90,000. Meanwhile, keeping the loans would have cost him roughly $6,000 in interest. That gap is the mistake. Not a technical error, a structural one. Opportunity cost doesn't feel like a penalty. It doesn't send emails. It doesn't show up as a fee. It just quietly rewrites your future. The math is brutal, but the psychology makes sense. Debt feels like a weight. Paying it off feels like freedom, and we're taught that freedom is priceless. But freedom from what? Let's slow this down. When you borrow money, you pay interest. That's the cost. 4%, 5%, whatever the number is. When you invest money, you earn returns. Historically, broad markets average around 10% per year over long periods, sometimes higher, sometimes painfully lower, but that's the long-term gravity. If your debt costs 4% and your investments return 10%, the spread is 6% in your favor. Every dollar you use to eliminate that debt early is a dollar that stops earning that 6%. That's the trade. Now add inflation, because inflation is where this stops being intuitive. From 2020 through 2023, inflation spiked. 7%, 8%, at one point higher. That means something strange happened. If you had a fixed-rate loan at 3% during that time, the real cost of that debt was negative. Your debt was shrinking in purchasing power faster than interest could grow it. You were being paid to wait. And when you paid it off early, you reversed the deal. You took cheap, depreciating debt and replaced it with cash that could have been working much harder somewhere else. This is the part no one puts on a whiteboard, because it sounds wrong. We've been trained to see debt as poison, but debt isn't moral, it's mechanical. It has a cost, it has a function. Used poorly, it ruins people. Used carefully, it buys time. Now look at the culture around this. Online forums are full of debt-free celebrations, paid-off mortgages, zero-balance screenshots. The language is emotional, almost religious. Burned the loan, crushed the debt, finally free, and everyone claps. Meanwhile, there's another group you don't hear from. They kept their 2.5% mortgages from 2020. They kept their 0% car loans. They kept their student loans at 3%, and they invested the difference. They didn't feel virtuous. They didn't feel clean. They just watched their net worth compound faster. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being debt-free and being financially secure are not the same thing. In some environments, they're opposites. Take housing. If you locked in a mortgage at 3% and inflation is running at 4%, paying that loan early doesn't make you safer, it makes you poorer. You eliminate a cheap liability and give up the chance to deploy that capital elsewhere. Your neighbor keeps the mortgage, invests aggressively, and ends up ahead, not because they're reckless, because they understood the environment. This is the irony. The people who look the most responsible on paper end up making the least optimal decisions, not because they're wrong, because they're playing the wrong game. Zoom out even further. The financial advice industry thrives on simplicity. Debt bad, savings good. Pay it off, sleep well. It's easy to sell, easy to follow, and emotionally rewarding. But simplicity isn't accuracy, and one-size-fits-all advice in a world of changing rates, inflation cycles, and market returns can quietly cost you hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. It also creates a divide. People who understand leverage, who know how to use low-cost debt as a tool, pull ahead. People who follow conventional wisdom stay disciplined and capped. Not because they failed, because they optimized for comfort instead of outcomes. Timing matters too. This isn't 2019 anymore. Interest rates are higher now. Inflation has cooled but hasn't vanished. A 7% loan today might absolutely be worth paying off early. A 3% loan from 4 years ago? Probably not. The math changes with the environment, which means blind rules are dangerous. The point isn't that you should never pay off debt early. The point is that you should know what you're trading away when you do. Because here's the real question hiding underneath all of this. Why do we optimize for how we feel instead of how we win? Marcus isn't an outlier. Millions of people make the same trade every year. Peace of mind over profit. Certainty over compounding. And maybe that's fine. Maybe sleeping better at night is worth real money. But no one tells you that's what you're buying. The advice is framed as pure upside. Pay off debt, build wealth, do the responsible thing. The math says otherwise. It says you're choosing between two different kinds of wealth, emotional wealth or financial wealth. And pretending they're the same thing is how people end up confused when discipline doesn't translate into results. Marcus is doing fine now. He's investing, he's building, but he'll never get those 3 years back. And he'll never recover the $73,000 that could have been compounding instead. The clock doesn't stop. Opportunity cost doesn't forgive. So maybe the question isn't whether you should pay off debt early. Maybe it's whether you understand what it's costing you and whether anyone ever told you there was a cost at all.
If this kind of breakdown is useful, this is exactly what the channel does. No hype, no shortcuts, just how the system actually works. Subscribing just means you won't miss the next one.